Guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent to me from a subscriber that tells his story of how when he was younger, the guy's 30 years old now, but when he was younger, very early 20s, 22, something like that, he basically was pressured to marry very early because of his religion. He's Mormon, and he grew up in a very strict Mormon family, a strict Mormon society, and no surprise, they're definitely push getting married young, having a lot of babies, all that. He gets married, and to no surprise, it was great for like a few weeks, and then all the stereotypical shit that comes along with bad marriages comes out, and he and the girl he married were obviously, I mean, let's be honest here, they were kids, early 20s. Obviously very little life experience and all that, and it goes to hell in a handbasket. And he talks all about that. But the good thing is, at the end of the story, the guy comes out on top, and things are good in his life, and hopefully he's in the path to live happily ever after. But you're going to see all the shit he goes through, and you're going to see, I did a video several days ago where a guy, who was in his marriage from hell. The wife was just a train wreck. She was a nightmare in so many ways, and he stayed with her because of his religion, because divorce is frowned upon and all that. And he spent years just being miserable because of, he stayed with her because of that religious faith. And I made it clear. I said, look, and I said to the guys in that video, and I'll say it now real quick, if your religion, what you were born into, what you're raised into and all that, if that gives you comfort in life, it makes you happy, great. Keep on doing what you're doing. I'm happy for you. But if that religious faith causes you to do things that in your gut and in your heart isn't right for you, or causes you to stay in a situation that isn't right for you and causing a lot of pain and suffering, then it is time to seriously question that religious faith. It's seriously time to question how you're going about your life, because you got one shot at life. Unless you can prove to me that reincarnation's real and you get to come back and do it again, you got one shot. So you really got to question those things. A lot of people aren't going to like hearing about that. The last time I did a video, I got some hate comments and hate emails from people saying, don't talk about religion, SSM, and stuff like that. But, fuck them. But this is a perfect example of why, once again, you got to do what's best for you no matter what. And so it's a little long, but it's a good story. So it starts off saying, "Hi SSM, I just watched one of your newest videos about a man who stayed in a terrible marriage, possibly just for religious reasons, and thought I'd share my story as well. To start off, I grew up a very strict Mormon, so I didn't date as a kid. I went on my first date at 22, and so was completely unprepared for the train wreck that came my way. 22. Damn. I was dating at 15. I was in college trying to get into medical school to become a doctor, and had just gotten back from my mission for my church, and the next box on my religion's How to Live Your Life list was to find a wife and start making babies. So here I am at a Mormon college as a single, never dated Mormon guy who has no idea how dating works. So I turn to a friend who wants to set me up on a blind date. He tells me that he doesn't know if it'll work out long term because me and this girl are pretty different. And he says in parentheses, I should have paid more attention to that. But it might be a fun date. He shows me a picture and I instantly tell him no. Not because she's ugly, just the opposite. She's a 10. He says, I'm a solid 5 out of 10, maybe a 6 if I really sell myself. Not trying to sell myself short or anything, just being honest. Long story short, we date, I fall hard, and she plays along. After 3.5 years of dating, and he says in parentheses, an eternity considering good Mormon kids like us don't have sex before getting married, we finally get married. So he gets married at 25 years old. He starts dating her at 22. He never dated really before, and he meets her. She's hot, and it sounds like he obviously was a little intimidated by her beauty. They start dating, and 3 years, and obviously they're not having sex. And then at 25 years old, they get married and never had sex before. Damn. What could go wrong? I skipped all those dating years for a reason. You'll see why in a bit. Marriage was great. For a few weeks. Yeah, sex, living together, setting up an apartment, adventure, blah, blah, blah. Once the newness worn off, just the slightest bit I heard were some dreaded words. Do you think we made a mistake getting married? This doesn't just happen once. Every few days, she says something similar, wondering if we're a good match, if we should get a divorce, if I date enough before choosing her. I act the good husband and try to reassure her every time and up my game at home, making her nice dinners, taking her on too expensive for our tiny budget trips, and working multiple jobs to try and make up for it, etc. These actions placate her for a few days before she does it again, and then clicks in my head what is happening. She's doing it again. So this guy's doing what obviously is shown on movies and TV, and by other guys that don't know any better, that I'm going to placate her and do all these nice things, work extra jobs to bring enough money, make all these fancy dinners, take her on trips I can't afford or we can't afford, all these things to make her happy, placate her, and guess what? Big surprise, it doesn't make her happy. That's why you don't placate women. That's why you don't put them on a pedestal. You don't treat them like the queen. You don't kiss their ass. I'm not saying you're horrible to them, but you treat them the same as you would anybody else. That's it. You don't see her trying to make you happy. You don't see her cooking you dinners, working extra shifts, doing all these things to make you happy, do you? You see, she wasn't the only girl I dated. Aha. She was just the first. After that first date, I went on dates with other girls at school. All told, I went on dates 1 to 3 with 5 different girls before I committed to her. Way too few and too fast considering it took place in the span of 4 weeks before we started exclusively dating. That's not long, bro. 4 weeks of dating a few different women, that's nothing. I mean, okay, yeah, you went on a few dates, but obviously you weren't hooking up with any of them or anything like that. And you didn't really learn a whole lot about female nature and how all these different things. That 4 weeks is not enough. Maybe if you did it for a few years, that'd be a little different, but 4 weeks, no. Which obviously he knows. He says, way too few and too fast considering it took place in the span of 4 weeks before we started exclusively dating. But not unheard of with young, dumb Mormon kids. Don't be so hard on yourself, man. You were born into the family you were and into your culture. That's just how things worked out. It's not your fault. Don't be so hard on yourself. I just feel bad for you and a lot of the people in situations like that. They're born and raised into a strict household with certain views based on their religion, and they obviously want to make their parents happy and they don't want to get in trouble, so they got to go along with mom and dad's plan or the plan of the religion and the culture, and they're not happy. It's a hell of a lot of pressure, especially when you're young. That's tough. You know, don't be so hard on yourself. But the guy is telling this story from now, because it was obviously a while ago, and he made the hard choice, and things are better. You'll see as I go on here. She, however, had a history. Most girls that are 10s do. Yeah, imagine that. One guy in particular that she had dated for a few years in high school, she was still hung up on. Because of this, every time she would get to thinking about him, again, she would throw our relationship into a tailspin, asking me similar things, but in the context of us dating. Sometimes it would fade, but at others, she would start acting strange, getting super distant, exploding over the smallest things, bringing up past actions I'd done to upset her. It was only later that I noticed that the patterns of these behaviors tended to coincide with this guy coming to the area or her siblings pressuring her to go on a date with some guy they thought she would like. He says in parentheses, she often told her family that we weren't exclusively dating so she could have these encounters. I was stupid. I was blue-pilled. I let it happen each time. I knew about it each time, whether she was trying to keep it secret or not, and I did nothing. Eventually, she would tell me what happened, and I would treat it like we were growing stronger as a couple. I'm guessing he means that this thing, like that her siblings were pressuring her to go out with this guy when they weren't married yet. That's what I'm assuming here, okay? But even then, this guy never should have put up with this shit. If they're supposed to be exclusive, her going out with some other dude or regularly talking to her ex, I wouldn't tolerate that shit. But by allowing this, you're just inviting more bad behavior. In life, guys, when somebody tests your boundaries, when they try to take advantage of you, you got to draw a line in the sand and say no more. And it's no different with women, okay? Because human nature is human nature. And if You allow things to happen, you just invite more of that shit to happen. People are going to keep doing it and testing the barriers and testing the barriers, and they're not going to respect you. Does it sound like she respects him? No, and it's going to get worse. You always stand up for yourself, gentlemen. Even if it means by you standing up for yourself, you could lose that person, whether it's a friend, a family member, a girlfriend, a spouse. You stand up for yourself. And believe me, at the end of the day, they may not like that initially, but they'll respect you for it. And if you lose them, you lose them. Fuck it. There's always replacements out there. Back to the marriage. She was doing it again, only this time we were married. I talked to her about what I was thinking, and she reassured me over and over that she wasn't going to cheat on me. She was just scared at the idea that she had made a lifelong, an eternity-long, he said, remember Mormon, decision in her early 20s. Time went on, and things got worse. My blue-pilled nature didn't stop with her stepping out on me. When he says stepping out, I don't know if he means cheating on him or what. He doesn't really... or just being a bitch. It also stretched into allowing her to physically and verbally abuse me. Never tolerate that shit. This had happened a lot while we were dating, but I was a good, stoic man, so I could take it. No, that's not being a good, strong man by taking abuse, verbally and most certainly physically, from anyone, let alone woman you're dating or involved with. Never. But I gotta wonder if this guy put up with it again because of social pressure, family pressure, because obviously it comes down to his culture and the religion and all that. But you never tolerate disrespect from anyone, ever. Once it started while we were married, she dialed it up to an 11. The constant criticism, personal attacks and insults, control and manipulation, and unending gaslighting started to break me down. My attempts to appease her weren't enough anymore. Now she needed to buy things for herself so she could be happy, so she could make up for her lost opportunities either in career or personal areas due to marrying me so young. Well, it's not your fault that she got married to you, okay? And at the end of the day, I mean, let's be honest here. She's obviously really unhappy she got married young, obviously wasn't in love with this guy, or even loved him to begin with, but obviously got married probably for the same reasons this dude did. I'm not making excuses for her. I'm just saying what was going on here, okay? And this goes back to what I say about because of culture and religion being pressured to do something you don't want to do and all that. It's a mistake. And it obviously, I mean, again, it may sound like I'm making excuses for her. I'm not. I'm just saying what's probably going on behind the scenes. It doesn't justify her treating this guy this way, but I'm guaranteeing that's what was going on, and she was just really unhappy. But this guy's way of he was unhappy, but he was handling it in the best way he could by trying to make things work and being a good guy. She was handling by flying off the handle and being an asshole. But this guy didn't make his situation better by appeasing her. Guys, appeasement doesn't work ever in any situation. Whether it's something on the world stage between countries or just with somebody bullying you or anything like that, you never appease. You fight back. You stand up for yourself. You don't tolerate shit from anybody. Appeasement doesn't work. It goes on. About 3 years after getting married, I got into medical school and I couldn't pay much attention to her anymore. I'm busy studying, but she still expects me to take her on day trips, on dates multiple times a week, to drop whatever I'm doing to cater to her whims. And I finally put my foot down. I told her no. Good job, man. It took a lot of shit for you to say no, but you did it. But the problem is, guys, you're going to see, because he spent so long appeasing her, placating her, saying yes, doing whatever he could to make her happy, because that's what, again, men are taught by movies and television and other clueless men. That's what you got to do to make women happy. Obviously, him saying no isn't going to go over very well, but at the end of the day, it will work out for him. This was when my bad marriage imploded. That's predictable. The abuse continued. Her wanting to get in touch with an ex, who was himself now married and moved on, ramped up, and her spending increased dramatically. We only made it 4 months into medical school before she left me because she had caught me masturbating in the shower. And he says in parentheses, we had sex maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks max. Ouch. That's not what you thought you signed up for, huh? You were probably thinking early on, hey, I got this hot girl, and every night we're going to be hooking up. Wrong. I was deeply depressed, suicidal even, but I didn't want to go out like that. I wanted to make a difference in my life, so I got help. Good for you, man. I'm sure that was very hard, asking for help. I went to a psychiatrist the same day that she left, got on meds that I needed, and got counseling. A few months into our separation, she told me she wanted a divorce, but wanted me to fill out the paperwork because it was cheaper in the state I was living in. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. As a good Mormon man, I had been trained to never divorce unless something very heinous actions were done on her part. And he says in parentheses, rampant adultery, major crime, or gasp, loss of a religious faith. Therefore, I put up with her abuse, her racking up thousands of dollars in credit card debt, even her leaving me. I put up with all that because I was supposed to, but here was my way out. I didn't ask for the divorce, she did, and that was that. I cut off all communication with her except email in case we needed to get lawyers involved, and we would have clear records of communication that way. Very smart, man. She didn't like that at all, but it didn't matter. I refused to take her calls and only responded to texts with please email me if you want to communicate. Eventually, she came back to pick up her stuff and sign papers, or so she said. She tried just about everything to convince me to take her back. Even then, I would have if she admitted to me that she had problems and would get help. And he says in parentheses, without me prompting her to do so, but she wouldn't. She bawled her eyes out at the courthouse when we submitted the paperwork. She held my hand the entire time and was hanging on my shoulder and arm like she needed me as a physical crutch. Everyone there felt very uncomfortable, all except me. I was stoic, as always, on the outside, but inside I was doing cartwheels. I bet you were, man, because your shackles were about to come off. You were about to be a free man with a clean slate and a second chance at life, so to speak. But then you gained all this knowledge of what can happen in a marriage and when you rush into things and the pressure of doing something to appease others and all that. And you're going to be a doctor, so you're going to have damn good living and nice life. After she drove off, I had a good cry. I'm not ashamed of that. I had honestly loved her and would have given her my entire life. Well, look what happened when you tried to do that. How'd that work out? So many guys make the mistake, they get married, or even if they don't get married, and they treat the woman like the sun rises and sets with her. And the pedestal and the royalty treatment, and look what happens. And they put up with all this abuse and bullshit. You know, I mean, if you treated somebody badly and abused them and all that stuff like that, would you have much respect for them and they just put up with it and said, thank you, may I have another? No way. Same thing goes with women. Goes on. He said, I was free from constant abuse and manipulation. I tried dating again, but was shunned in the Mormon single community because I was divorced and therefore deficient. Deficient? It's been several years now, and I'm still single, only now by choice, and I'm no longer Mormon. Yeah, I can see that coming. I couldn't stay in a religion that had helped keep me in a terrible situation and actively hurt me for escaping it. I also can't get past a second date with any woman because of all the red flags I see. Red flags I am far too familiar with. That was my situation when I found your channel and the Red Pill community. Well, good for you, man, for going out there and seeking knowledge, and good for you that your radar is finely tuned, that whenever you can see bullshit, you bail. Good for you, because a lot of guys would just stay in that and put up with it like you did initially because they think that's what they're supposed to do, or they want to get married, or for whatever reason, so many guys do that. You don't do that. Now, I'm not saying you act like a jerk. I'm not saying you mistreat anyone. I'm just saying is that you stand up for yourself. You have self-respect. So if you're on a date and she shows up late, you bring it up. You check her on it. You're not rude about it, but you just make a joke saying, I thought the date was at 6 o'clock or something like that. You're not just like, hey, you effing this. No. Or she starts getting her phone out, texting during the date. You call her on this. Say, hey, I appreciate you put the phone away. You know, this is the first date or whatever it happens to be. And if she gets an attitude, just go to the waiter, say, what's my half of the bill, and walk. Or other things. Or any other type of stuff. If she's being disrespectful. You don't tolerate shit. But if you see other red flags, then and there, hey, ain't going to work. I'm not going to waste my time. I wish I had been more aware when I was younger, but I'm only 30, and he says, with no kids, thank God. I still have a lot of years to improve myself and live my life the way I want to. Your channel and others have helped me free myself from the blue pill mindset that I need a wife and family in order to be fulfilled and happy. You don't, man. That's the thing. You don't. And so many guys are waking up to this. But unfortunately, it takes going through bad experiences to really understand that. But look, if I could put a silver lining on this guy's situation, I would say, look, he learned all these hard lessons early on in life in his 20s. Now he's 30 years old. He's a doctor. He's got his whole life ahead of him and has all this knowledge. He's going to have a great life. And he keeps improving himself, working on his purpose, becoming the best doctor he can be, maybe learning more skills. So he's obviously a better and better doctor, higher demand, more money. All that money can provide a really nice life, great car, great houses, a hell of a good nest egg. And when he is ready and he actually dates some good quality women that there isn't bullshit with, or at least he knows how to stand up with himself, that they will then back down the bullshit, he can have a fun dating life and get a whole lot of ass and all that, Feel free to share my story if you think it will help your viewers. I would like to remain anonymous, though, so I don't get crucified and lose my future career as a physician. The you-know-what movement is far too powerful for me to deal with in the vulnerable position I am in currently in my career. Wish you all the best in your fight to educate and help other men. Signed, a happily divorced and free man. Well, that's quite a story, and really good job to this guy for getting through the divorce. And he said, he was messed up about it for a while, went and saw a shrink, got shit off his chest, was on meds for a while, but whatever. He had to do it, getting through the hard times. And when she came back, bawling her eyes out, begging for a second chance, all that shit, he held strong. It's over, got divorced. And even then, he obviously, from what he said, is pretty much shunned from his community and probably his family, because now he obviously left the religion. I can only imagine how difficult that is after the hellish marriage. But he was strong enough to go through that, get past it. He's on his own, and this guy definitely gonna have a great life. And I really respect the guy for doing this. I appreciate you sharing me this story. This guy's story, this may motivate somebody in a situation right now who's watching the video, going through the same thing in one form or another, to say, you know what, I can't deal with this anymore. Even though I have to go through hell in one form or another to get out of this bad marriage or bad situation or oppressive religion, or whatever it happens to be, oppressive culture, this can inspire them to do that. So thank you for sharing your story. This guarantee is going to help somebody out, or many somebodies. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And give this guy a thumbs up for his going through all this hell and turning around his life. Good for him. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.